Guys, so basically when you're watching this video, I'm gonna say like a secret message, and if you hear it, it's a little bit into the video. If you hear it, then comment down below. The magic word today is snazzy pasties. Alright, enjoy the book. And please consider subscribing, we're so close to 1,000 subscribers. Tom Gates, 10 Tremendous Tales by Liz Pichon. 1. Tremendous tank top. School's been a bit tricky for me this week because I keep forgetting things. There's a lot going on, so it's not all my fault. The first thing I forgot was when Mr. Fullerman said, "Are you ready for the quick fire spelling test?" I kept what I thought was a nice, relaxed expression on my face, but Marcus, who was sitting next to me, said, you forgot about the spelling test, didn't you?" "No, I've been practicing," I replied. I hadn't. "Ignore him," Amy told me. Somehow I managed to get through the test by using a combination of super good skills. My sneaky side-eye spying, heavily disguised as serious thinking. Number 2, actually knowing how to spell some of the words, which was unusual for me. So in the end, I didn't do too badly, but it was touch and go. Then, the next day, Mr. Fullerman came into class and said, "Good morning, Class 5F. Everyone replied apart from me, because I'd been thinking about an advert I'd seen on TV the night before. Suddenly, I heard myself saying, "Good morning, Mr. Sunshine." "Who's Mr. Sunshine?" Amy asked. "I mean Mr. Fullerman," I corrected myself, but it was too late. The class started to laugh. Ha 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 ha. Even Mr. Fullerman was smiling, and I felt like I had to explain who Mr. Sunshine was, so I blurted out, "It's from an advert. Mr. Sunshine makes people happy when they book a holiday." "The tune on the advert really sticks in your head, sir," I added. "Mr. Sunshine isn't the worst things I've been called," Mr. Fullerman told me. It took a while for the class to calm down. Even Amy laughed, but Marcus went right over the top and was doubled over in hysterics. "It wasn't that funny, Marcus," I told him. "It, ha ha ha, really, ha ha, oh my God, was." Then he stopped laughing because he got a stitch. "It's your fault," he told me. It wasn't. At least the stitch calmed him down, though. Mr. Fullerman stood at the front of the class and started clapping out a rhythm to get our attention. We clapped back. "If anyone has forgotten their dinner money or packed lunch today, put up your hand now, please." I had my packed lunch, so there was no need to put my hand up. Or, that's what I thought. 10 minutes before the bell went for lunch, I realised my packed lunch was at home. When I told Mr. Fullerman, he sighed, "Quickly, go and tell the office so they can add you to the free meal today. Otherwise, you won't get any lunch. But don't run," he said in a weary voice. I did my excellent speed walking all the way to Mrs. Mumble, who raised her eyebrows at me. "Okay, Tom, I'll put you on the lunch list. Please don't forget to bring in your money tomorrow." I nodded. "Shall I email your parents just in case?" She checked. "No need, Mrs. Mumble. I'll bring it in," I told her confidently. And when I got back to class, Mr. Fullerman said exactly the same thing. It was like no one believed I would remember. "Shall I give you a note, Tom?" "I really won't forget, sir," I assured him. I sat down and Amy smiled while Marcus pulled her face. That was annoying. "What's the face for?" I asked. "You'll forget your dinner money," he said smugly. "No, I won't. Look, I'm going to write it down in my notebook." "And then you'll forget your notebook? You've been forgetting a lot of stuff lately." "Tom, just saying," he added. The worst thing about Marcus telling me that was I knew he was right. "I'm not that bad," I muttered under my breath. "You are. I lent you my pencil the other day and you forgot to give that back too. Or you've lost it, so I need another pencil. It was my favourite pencil," Marcus told me with his folded arms. Normally I wouldn't have asked him for anything, but my pencils were blunt from doodling. I still have his pencil, so I took it out of my case and gave it back. Here it is, Marcus. Thanks for lending it to me. Marcus took the pencil and checked it over like I'd done something to it. He got out some paper and wrote, "This pencil is mine." "It's not very sharp," he grumbled. I had to stop myself from saying, "You or the pencil." I watched as Marcus began to chew the end of his pencil, which was gross. "Marcus, I wouldn't put that in your mouth if I were you," I told him. "Why not? I can do what I want. It's my pencil," he said smugly. "That's what I told Rooster when he picked it up," I whispered. I was joking, but it made Marcus stop. Then Amy leaned forward and said, "Hey Marcus, that reminds me, you forgot to give me my ruler back." Marcus looked suspicious, like he wasn't convinced he had it. Are you sure? Let me check." He grumbled and started rummaging through his bag. Sure enough, Marcus found the ruler. He took it out and told Amy, "This ruler looks like mine. I don't think it's yours." Amy was not happy. "Yes, it is, Marcus. It's got my name on it," she told him. "Where? I can't see it." Marcus wasn't being very helpful. "Just give it back, please, Amy said, getting annoyed, and she reached out to take it. Marcus moved away. Things were getting tense, and I was stuck in the middle of them arguing over a ruler. "Look, Amy's name is on the ruler, see? Who's got a bad memory now, Marcus?" I said, pointing out Amy's name. Reluctantly, Marcus handed the ruler back. He even said sorry, quietly. "Well, Tom, you still forgot way more things than I do, like your homework and your packed lunch." Marcus had to go and remind me of that again. I was wondering what I could say back to him when I got distracted by a waft of school dinner cooking smell that had crept into our class. It was a nice smell, in case you were wondering. I tried to guess what it was by sniffing the air. Roast potatoes. Maybe it could even be one of my favourite lunches. Chicken pie, which was exciting. I think forgetting my packed lunch was a good thing, because whatever's cooking smells delicious. So now I get to eat that instead. I told Marcus, making the point that sometimes forgetting things can work out for the best. Only this time, I was wrong. Very wrong. When the bell went for dinner, I rushed to the hall, and it quickly became clear that there was nothing on offer that I wanted to eat. More kids started lining up behind me as I tried to work out what food had smelt so nice. "Come on, quickly, there's a queue building up," the school cook told me. I was under pressure to make up my mind. Not the mince, it looks grey, or the fish pie with the lumpy potatoes." I don't know," I muttered. "Hurry up, we're hungry." One of the kids called out. "I'm thinking," I told them. "Think faster," they said. The cook told me to stand to one side and let the kids go in front. Then, as I tried to decide, more and more kids went past until I was right at the back of the queue. That's when I noticed a new tray of food had been brought out. I couldn't quite see what it was, but I recognised the lovely smell. And then I heard someone say, "I'll have the chicken pie, please." I nearly dropped my tray. "That's chicken pie?" I repeated. That was exactly what I wanted. I tried to rejoin the queue where I left it, but the little kids wouldn't let me. "No pushing in," they all told me. "I'm just reclaiming my place. I know what I want to eat now." Mr. Sprocket came over to see what all the queue jostling was about. "Come on, Tom, let the younger children go first. There's enough lunch for everyone," he told me. I had to wait my turn while every single kid in front of me asked for chicken pie. All I could hear from the back of the queue was, "I'll have chicken pie, please. Chicken pie for me. Chicken pie here too, please. Chicken pie, please. Someone please have mince or the fish pie. Anyone, please leave me a chicken pie," I said loudly so that my desperation would be heard. I edged closer and closer and kept muttering, "Chicken pie, please. Chicken pie, please." And finally, I got to the front and said, "At last, chicken pie, please." "Sorry, they were very popular and all the pies have gone. But I have got tuna pasta if you want some," the school cook told me. I did not want tuna pasta. No, thank No, thank you very much. Are you sure they're all gone? I asked her just in case. Yes, now what do you want instead? Reluctantly, I went for the mince and peas because I didn't really have much choice. Walking past all the kids that were eating their chicken pies gave me a serious food envy. I sighed a lot. I found the seat next to Norman and sat down. This chicken pie is delicious, was the first thing he said. Brilliant. Not in a good way. That's what I wanted, I told him sadly. Here, you can have a bit of my pie crust, Norman said, and put a big piece on my plate, which tasted much better than my mince. It was only the thought of going to visit the fossils after school that kept me going, because I knew they'd have something nice for me to eat. I'd even be happy to try some of Granny's odd treats. Back in class. The bell was just about to go for the end of the day when Mr. Fullerman reminded us all that it was no school uniform day tomorrow. Then he looked at me and said, "Don't forget, Tom." "I won't, sir," I replied. Marcus went and pulled that face again, which was annoying. I left the class and told myself over and over again, "I will not forget no school uniform day. I will not forget no school uniform day." I was on a mission to get to the fossil's house fast, as I could hear my tummy rumbling. Before I even rang the bell, Grandad opened the door wearing a very snazzy tank top. He was very pleased to see me. I told Grandad that I liked his tank top, and he gave me a very slow twirl so I could see the back. I guess Granny Mavis must have made it. She loves knitting. Granny can knit, talk, and watch TV all at the same time. I think she's got some kind of knitting superpower. 1 minute she's holding a ball of wool, the next she's knitted a brand new jumper and is wearing it like magic. I tried studying what her knitting needles are doing, but she moves her hands so fast that everything is a blur. Once I saw her use 3 needles at the same time. Serious knitting skills. She is a knitting ninja, and Grandad is her tank top model, and doing a very good job too. "Mavis is a wonder with a ball of wool," Grandad said. "This tank top's a bit special, isn't it, Tom?" he added and smiled at me. "It is, Grandad. Your tank top's the best," I agreed. Grandad looked a bit like a bumblebee with the stripes, but I didn't say that because I could see how much he loved it. Granny was sitting in her comfy chair and already busy knitting something else. "Is that another tank top for Grandad?" I wondered. "It's a scarf, Tom. I can show you how to make your own if you want." "I don't think so. It looks tricky." But Grandad convinced me to have a go. "Go on, Tom. Even I've made a scarf. Your Granny's an excellent teacher." Granny suddenly whipped out 2 ginormous knitting needles and a ball of very fluffy black wool. "These are what Bob used. His hands are a bit creaky, but you'll have no problem picking it up, Tom," Granny told me. I wasn't so sure. The needles looked like drumsticks, and I didn't know where to start. Granny helped me to get going, and I was concentrating so much I almost forgot how hungry I was. Knitting wasn't exactly what I'd been planning, but with Granny showing me what to do, after a while I began to see an actual scarf appearing. Kind of. I was very slow and happy when Granny took over and finished it for me. It was easy to spot the parts I knitted, but I was still pleased with my handiwork. I tried the scarf on and decided the messy bits of my knitting might have even come in handy. I would pretend my scarf had meant to look like that. Granny and Grandad thought I'd done a great job. "Well done, Tom. You must be hungry after all that concentrating," Grandad asked. "I am," I said, sounding slightly muffled from behind my scarf. "Excellent. I've also knitted you a cake," Granny told me, which was confusing. Also, exactly the sort of thing Granny would do. "She's only joking, Tom," Grandad laughed. He could see I was surprised. Granny headed off to the kitchen, though I'm sure Mavis could knit a cake if she wanted to, he added. When Granny reappeared, she offered me a plate of I don't know what. After a long stare, I worked out they were made from Chocolate sponge cake, tick, with lettuce topping, cherries, and an unknown filling. Sometimes it's best not to know what's in Granny's cakes. I tried one anyway and told her it was delicious, keeping my favourite grandchild position. Obviously. Thank you, Tom. As my knitting had taken a while, Grandad offered to take me home. Thanks to his speedy mobility scooter and super speedy driving, we got back in no time at all, even with Granny Mavis hanging on to the back in roller skates. Whee! Mum and Dad were very impressed with my hand-knitted scarf. I even showed it to Delia. I made it myself, I told her. No, really, I'd never have guessed. She laughed. I can make you one if you want, I suggested. I like my scarves without holes, thanks, but it's Uncle Kevin's birthday soon. He'd love a scarf, I'm sure. Dad thought it was a good idea too. For the man who has everything, a Tom Gates scarf would be perfect. I really liked my scarf, and the holes were useful. I was planning to show it to Derek tomorrow. He'd be impressed, I bet. During the night there was a big storm and lots of loud banging noises which woke me up. I was too tired to get up and see what it was. I found out from Dad in the morning. Sorry about the noises last night, Tom. All that rain, the shed roof was leaking a lot. I had to run out and protect my computer and work. Thought you fixed the shed, I said. So did I. I didn't, Mum added. I'm good at DIY normally, Dad protested. A bit like Tom's good at knitting, Delia joined in, which reminded me to bring my scarf with me. Oh, Tom, your grandparents called early this morning, Mum said to me. They have something for you and want to meet you at the school gates. They seem very excited and wanted you to have it today. Really? It can only mean one thing, Tom. Granny's been cooking, said Delia, really enjoying herself. I hope she was wrong, and it wasn't more layered chocolate sponge cakes with cherries and lettuce. I'd had enough of those. I left the house a little later than normal and missed Derek, who'd already gone, so I'd have to show him my scarf at school. When I arrived, the Fossils were already waiting and waving from the school gates. They seemed very pleased to see me. Tom, we have something for you, Grandad said, and Granny handed over a gift bag. Derek saw me and looked slightly confused. Is it for your birthday? I don't think so. I just have lovely grandparents, I told him. More favourite grandchild points for me. I looked inside the bag and saw a neatly wrapped present. It was very exciting. My present was attracting a lot of attention from other kids, including Amy and Florence. Hey, Tom, Amy began to say. No, it's not my birthday, I interrupted. Did you forget it's not school uniform day? Florence added. I froze mid-opening the present. Looking around, I was the only kid that was in school uniform. How did I forget it was no school uniform day? I tried really hard not to let my disappointment show on my face and carried on opening my present, just when I thought things couldn't get worse. I knew you'd forget it was no school uniform day, I heard Marcus say. He was wearing a very nice Do 3 t-shirt too, like I should have been if I hadn't forgotten no school uniform day. This is perfect, Tom. I think you'll be pleased with your present, especially now, Granny and Grandad told me. I opened it up, and before I could say anything, Marcus shouted, Tank top! Don't get me wrong, I did like it, but a tank top wasn't exactly what I'd choose to wear on no school uniform day. It was identical to Grandad's tank top. Straight away, Granny began helping me to put it on. I had no choice as it went over my eyes. I caught sight of Marcus smirking at me. Grandad gave me the thumbs up and told me, Mavis knitted you a very own tank top, all because you liked mine so much. With all my friends around me and the Fossils looking so pleased, I couldn't say anything else but, Thanks, Granny, it's the best stripy tank top I've ever had. Which was true, as I'd never had a tank top before. It really does suit you, Florence said, and now you're officially part of no school uniform day. Derek pointed out. I was pleased about that. We'd better be off. We can't miss the start of our hot yoga class, Granny announced, while Grandad demonstrated a few flexing moves. Bob, don't peak too soon. Save some energy for the class, Granny told him before they waved goodbye. Derek noticed he had on the same t-shirt as Marcus as we headed into school. Look, we're matching Dude 3 at the best band, Derek told him. I like the t-shirt better than the band, Marcus said, and I knew you'd forget it was no school uniform day, Tom, he added smugly. Well, at least I'll be the only person in the entire school wearing a stripy tank top, I said, trying to pretend it was a good thing. Sometimes Marcus forgetting things can work out for the best. Or that's what I thought. How was I supposed to know that Mr. Fullerman had a stripy tank top as well? Hurry up and sit down, Class 5F. Brilliant, but not in a good way. Oh, well, at least no one has a scarf like mine, so I wasn't dressed exactly the same as Mr. Fullerman at all. Nice scarf. Thanks, I made it myself. You look ridiculous. 2. Tale 2. Tasty treats. Mum said she was going to drop me off at school this morning. Are we driving? I asked, because I like it when I get an unexpected lift in the car. No, I've got a dentist appointment, so I'm not going to work until later. I thought I could walk with you and Derek for a change, Mum told me, then added, oh, and that reminds me, it's never a good sign when parents say that. For instance, oh, that reminds me, you need to cut your toenails, Tom. That reminds me, we must clean your ears, Tom. That reminds me, it's time you had a bath, Tom. I wasn't wrong this time either. I must book you in to see the dentist as well. It's been far too long, Mum said. I could see Mum was looking at my teeth, so I closed my mouth fast. The last time I went to the dentist, someone before me was making terrible noises. The receptionist tried to pretend like nothing was happening and gave me some stickers so I had something to do. I coloured them in while I was waiting, but it didn't help much. I kept thinking about the bad teeth. Mum told me not to worry. Those are the sounds of someone who hasn't been to a checkup for very long. Time, Tom. That's why you have to brush your teeth. Not eat too many sweets and go to the dentist regularly, she explained. If she was trying to make me feel better, it didn't work. I reminded her about those noises and how my appointment had to be cancelled because the dentist was too busy with whoever was in there. Exactly, Tom. You can't leave it too long before you see the dentist. That wasn't what I wanted to hear. Derek was waiting for me outside the house. He smiled when he saw me, then stopped when he spotted Mum. It was obvious. Morning, Derek. I'm joining you for a walk to school today, said Mum cheerfully. Morning, Miss Gates. The whole way to school? Asked Derek. That's right. All the way. Something was up with Derek. I could tell. He whispered to me, I found some change and I wanted to stop at the shop to buy a treat. Now Mum was with us, she wouldn't let us stop to buy treats before school. That's for sure. Derek and I just had to look at it and walk past really slowly. Well, do it on the way home, I assured Derek. Do what, Tom? Mum asked, because she always hears everything. Homework, Mum, I said quietly. Mum smiled and took out a piece of paper. I thought it was my real homework and panicked. What's that? I asked. It's a letter from school, Mum told me. Oh no, about all the new events the Parents and Careers Association are putting on, including a sponsored silence. Mum read out to us. A sponsored... You'll get a lot of sponsors there for that, Mum laughed. My mum's being funny, I told Derek. When we got to school, there was a very interesting stall set up in the school grounds with lots of nice-looking things on it. Hey, Tom, can you see what I can see? Derek asked me. I think I can. A giant tin of mini wafers. We weren't the only kids to spot it. While Mum was chatting to another parent, we rushed over for a closer look. How do you win that? I wanted to know. You buy a raffle ticket. They're £1 each, and all the money goes to the school. One of the dads running the stall told us. Do the teachers use it for treats? Derek asked. No, it's for the school, for equipment, the dad said. But no one was really listening. We were all focused on the wafers. How do you win that? Leroy wanted to know. Pointing at the tin, like I said, with a raffle ticket. A letter went out last week telling everyone all about it. Does anyone want to buy one? The dad asked. Can you just win the wafers? Another kid said. No, it's the luck of the draw, but all the prizes are fantastic, said the dad, trying to convince us. I wasn't so sure, because some things looked a lot better than others. In my head, I picked the first prizes that I wouldn't mind winning. The wafer tin first, obviously. Chocolate World voucher, I'd like that. Box of games, not bad to win. Pens and paper, yes please. Treat hamper, nice. What's this? Cakes, yes. Squash, not so much. There were some cupcakes with a sign saying teacher treat. I liked the cakes but wasn't sure about the teacher bit. Kids were still asking about the wafers when Mum came to join us. Would you like to buy a raffle ticket? The dad wanted to know, sounding a little more desperate. Yes, why not? One for you, Tom, and one each for Derek and me, Mum told him, and handed over the money. The dad tore the tickets off and told Mum, it's all for a good cause. Yes, the teachers are all having a big party, I said as a joke. How was I supposed to know Mr. Fullerman was standing right behind me? I can assure you the money's all going to fund school equipment, Tom, though a party does sound like a good idea, Mr. Fullerman said. It was awkward. Listen out for Mrs. Mumble's announcement of the raffle winners at the end of the day, the stallholder told us. Derek and I were getting excited about the wafer tin when Mum decided to remind me about the dentist. Those wafers wouldn't be great for your teeth, Tom, especially if you're going to the dentist, she told me, then hugged me goodbye. Mr. Fullerman tried to move everyone away from the stall, though some kids were still asking questions. How do you win the wafers? Can I have a wafer? Can I get a ticket for the wafers? I think the dad on the stall was pleased to see us go. Derek and I put our tickets safely in our bags and crossed our fingers that we would win the tin. I sat down next to Amy in class and she handed me something under the desk and said, Tom, here, don't let Mr. Fullerman see. I looked down and in her hand was a fruit chew. It was a good start to the day. Save it for later, okay? She suggested. I took the chew quickly and said, thanks. What have you got there? Marcus asked, being nosy. Mr. Fullerman was already standing in front of the class, so I said, nothing. I thought about eating the chew and decided to wait for the right moment. Hello, Class 5F. Anyone who's taken part in the raffle, good luck. Someone is in for a real treat. They won't be disappointed. Now seemed like a good time to unwrap my chew. Doing it quietly was going to be a challenge. Marcus was already looking. Russell. I expertly tore off the paper, then did the I'm yawning hand move to pop the fruit chew in my mouth. It was a bold step. Yawn. It wasn't easy to do with a sticky fruit chew. I was already beginning to regret trying it, but I had to finish it now. Every time Mr. Fullerman turned his back to write something on the board, I did some extra fast chewing to try and finish it quickly. Are you eating? Marcus whispered to me. I ignored him and kept chewing, and that's when it happened. Crunch. Oh! I felt something in my mouth go crunch and accidentally let out an ah sound. Mr. Fullerman turned round immediately and gave me a look. No eating in class, Tom. Put it in the bin now, please. You know the rules. You were supposed to save it, she whispered. I put what was left of my chew in my hand, and that's when I saw it. A filling came out of my tooth. It didn't feel very good either. Sir, my filling fell out, I told him. Mr. Fullerman shook his head. Oh dear, Tom, sweets in class are not a good idea. Does it hurt? No, yeah, it does a bit. My tooth had begun to throb a little. I put my chew and filling in the bin and sat down. But for the rest of the class, I couldn't concentrate. My tooth began to really ache. Mr. Fullerman saw I was in pain and sent me to the school office to see Mrs. Mumble, who would call Mum. I wished I hadn't had that chew. Amy said she was sorry she gave it to me, but it wasn't her fault. Bad luck, Tom, Marcus told me. No more sweets for you, he added. Then there was when there was no need to. I was waiting outside the school office, feeling sorry for myself, when I noticed I could see into the teacher's staff room. The place no children were allowed. I spotted comfy chairs, a big table, and adults who were smiling. I had been in there before, but it looked different. Mrs. Mumble stood in front of me, blocking my view of the staff room. She came to tell me that Mum would be picking me up very soon. Luckily for you, Tom, she's at the dentist right now, and they agreed to see you for an emergency appointment. That's good news, isn't it? Mrs. Mumble said. I nodded slowly at the thrilling news. All I had to do was work out exactly what I would say to Mum. It was probably best to skip the fruit chew bit. I tried to focus on really good news, that I'd be leaving school early, even if it was just to go to the dentist's. As soon as Mum arrived, she wanted to know what happened. You were fine this morning. Were you eating something? She asked, just as I pointed to my missing filling, so I didn't have to answer. Mum sighed. Okay, we'd better get going. It just sort of fell out, I whispered, which it sort of did. Mum had the car, so we got to the dentist in double quick time. When I opened my mouth to show the dentist my teeth, a bit of fruit chew made an unwelcome appearance. Oh, this might have something to do with the filling falling out, the dentist said. I shrugged my shoulders in a how did that get there kind of way, but it was a fruit chew mystery. My dentist was very, very nice, and nothing hurt at all. I got the brush your teeth and don't eat sweets talk, and I was given the choice of picking my own sticker. I was looking forward to going back home for a nice restful time, as my appointment was over so fast, but Mum had other ideas. Don't be silly, Tom, it's only a new filling. You don't want to miss a whole day of school, do you? I did. Mum got me back to class in time for the extra spelling test, which was a lot more painful than losing a filling. Nice to know you're okay, Tom, and great news that you won't miss this test, Mr. Fullerman told me and smiled. I found it hard to share his enthusiasm, but I did the best I could in the test. My face was still a bit numb from the dentist's, and I found myself poking it without even thinking. Should you be doing that? Amy wondered. Probably not, I agreed, and tried to stop. Tom, you're doing it again, Amy said. I stopped pressing my cheek as the feeling was coming back to me slowly. And you shouldn't eat sweets in class or anywhere if you have a new filling, Marcus enjoyed reminding me. Thanks for that, Marcus. That's what my dentist said too, I sighed. So, if you win the big jar of wafers in the raffle, you should give them to me. I'll be helping to save your teeth, Marcus said happily. I'd forgotten about the raffle. The chances of me winning the giant tin of wafers were small. I knew that, but it didn't stop me thinking about wafers for the rest of the school day and right up until home time. Before the bell went, Mrs. Mumble crackled over the tannoy to make the raffle announcement. Quiet, everyone, Mr. Fullerman said, so we could listen to the raffle numbers being drawn. The whole class was silent. You could have heard a wafer drop. Number 14, number 21, number 16, not mine, number 2, 10, 18, 29, 50. It wasn't hard to spot who'd won something in our class. 20. Yes! Norman made so much noise that we missed the next number. is the last number. Thank you, everyone. Did anyone hear that? What Mrs. Mumble said, Mr. Fullerman asked us. Indrani put up her hand. I think she said 57, sir. Then Amy nudged me and pointed at my ticket. You're 57, Tom. Remember, I'll help you eat any wafers. Marcus added. I was stunned. I'd never won anything this important before. I ran over and celebrated with Norman. Mr. Fullerman suggested we both calm down, then told us to go to the office to find out what you've won. We didn't need reminding about that. 57 is my new favourite number. The first thing I did was find Derek, who was almost as excited as me. Clutching my ticket tightly, we both rushed down to the school office and joined the winner's queue. The little kids were at the front, as usual. When Mrs. Mumble called us up one by one to get our prizes, Derek and I crossed our fingers and hoped that no one would come out holding the wafer tin. Phew, looks like the squash has gone, Derek whispered as the kid went out holding it. Then Norman came out looking excited. So many nice things in this hamper. Apart from the weird paste. He told us, then shouted, I love raffles. We did too, until a girl walked past smiling and said, My life is complete. Yes, the tin of wafers was gone. Derek and I were gutted. There must be other great things to win. Derek tried to reassure me. We didn't have long to wait until Mrs. Mumble called us in. What have we won? There was only one thing left, propped up on her desk. Tom, ticket 57, you are very lucky to get this treat. I can assure you, this is something that money can't buy. Mrs. Mumble was pleased to tell us. Like another massive tin of wafers? Derek wondered. Even better than that. Tickets to Do 3 concert, I shouted. No, Tom, but you won't be disappointed. I gave Mrs. Mumble my raffle ticket and picked up the card. It's tickets to Chocolate World. Yes, I said excitedly. Not exactly, Tom, but you'll have a fantastic time, I promise. It's a treat for you for two, so you could bring Derek, Mrs. Mumble told us both. I can't wait, I said excitedly. You'll come, won't you, Derek? Try and stop me, he said, and then we read out the card. Can I change my mind? Derek asked me. Don't you dare. It wasn't exactly the treat that we were hoping for. 1 week later. Right, are you ready? Derek, still hungry? I asked before we went in. I am, Derek said. That's why he's my best friend. Staff room, please knock before entering. Having tea with the teachers wasn't exactly Chocolate World, but that's what I'd won in the raffle. On the plus side, Derek and I actually got to see the inside of the staff room, which never happens. We'd be able to tell all our friends what it was really like, and the teachers did put on the most fantastic looking spread of food for the special tea. Mrs. Worthington was there, Mrs. Knapp, Mr. Fullerman, and even Mr. Keene came to join us. So how's your band, Bob Zombies, doing, boys? He said. Dog zombies, sir, Derek corrected him. Exactly, well, I hope you both enjoyed this lovely tea. Mr. Keene told us, not really listening. We did our best. When Mrs. Worthington gave out the caramel wafers, things really picked up. It seemed like a good time to show the teachers how to do the caramel wafer trick. You have to guess which is the empty wafer, I explained. It had them all guessing, apart from Derek. He knew exactly which wafer was empty. Unlike the teachers, who all got it wrong. Can you spot the empty wafer? 3 very long hours. I'll give you 3 guesses who Mum and Dad have asked to look after me this afternoon. Number 1, the Fossils? Nah, they're busy. Number 2, Derek's Mum and Dad? No, Derek is out for the day. Delia? Yes, that's right. My cheerful sister. You can tell from her face that she's thrilled about it. I'm not exactly pleased either. Here's what happened. I was having a relaxing day, doodling in my notebook, reading comics and doing nice things, when Mum and Dad announced they were going out to a DIY shop. Huh? In case you don't know what DIY stands for, it's do it yourself, or it could be Dogs in Yellow. I wouldn't mind going to that shop. Mum told Delia, we're leaving you in charge for an hour or so while we go out. It's the or so bit that usually means they're going to be ages. Straight away, Delia wasn't happy. I can't do it. I'm going out too. I'm not looking after Tom, she snapped. I could tell she was only going to get worse. The thought of Delia being in charge for a few hours was not good. The boring meter. Boring? Really boring. Off the scale. Ding, ding, ding. Exactly how long are you going to be? I asked Mum. We need to get a new floor for your dad's shed after the roof leaked and ruined it. And a few other things too. That was a warning for me. A few other things. Mum and Dad would be going to hundreds of other shops as well. Dad told me I could come along if I wanted to, but you can't drag your feet all day, Tom. We need to get going. I had a big decision to make. 1, go with Mum and Dad and be very bored. 2, stay at home with Delia, who was very grumpy and also in charge, so no snacks. Will be much quicker if you both stay here. It'll be nice to spend some quality time together, Mum told us. Delia and I weren't so sure about that. I'm not babysitting Tom all afternoon, Delia said to Mum and Dad before they left. Like I was spoiling her fun. But that got me thinking. Why is it called babysitting? It's not like you sit on me and I'm not a baby. I don't know, Tom. Haven't you got something better to do? Delia wanted to know. Not really. Can you stop following me around? Delia sighed, which made me want to do it more. I've got an idea. I could show you how to draw a monster, I suggested. No, Tom. What I really want to do is go to the shopping centre bookstore. But I can't, thanks to you. It's not my fault, I reminded Delia, who unexpectedly said, OK, Tom, how about we play a game instead? Hide and seek. You go hide. You go and hide and I'll come and look for you. I wasn't going to fall for that old trick. Where Delia doesn't bother trying to find me at all. But I pretended to think about it anyway. OK, but I'll need a snack first. It was worth a try. No snacks, Delia snapped, then added, Look, Tom, if you come with me to the shopping centre, I'll make it worth your while. But I don't want to go to the shopping centre. I don't want to go shopping, and I'm not changing my mind, I told Delia firmly. Oakfield Shopping Centre. Only I did change my mind. It was Delia's sudden mention of buying me treats that really helped me to think again. Right now, I'm enjoying delicious caramel popcorn and a slushy drink that would turn my mouth blue. I'm not normally allowed them, so it was the first thing I asked for. I brought a bag with all my essential stuff to keep me busy, just in case Delia takes ages in the bookstore. Did you have to bring that big bag, Tom? Everything in here is useful, I explained. I doubt it. Come on, hurry up. We need to get to the top floor, Delia says, and makes me run after her. I'm trying not to spill my popcorn or drink as we get on the escalator. Looking up, I can see loads of people queuing at the bookstore already, which makes me pleased I brought my bag. I'm so late. This is so annoying, Delia mutters. Not as annoying as spilling my popcorn, I tell her. Delia ignores me. We have to join the queue at the back, which is a long way from the bookstore. I'm not exactly happy about it, but Delia's furious. Why are we here again? I ask her, not helping the situation. I'm going to get my favourite author's latest book signed. She's amazing. Delia sounds almost enthusiastic. It's like if I met Do 3 then. Slurp. Sort of, Delia agrees. We move one place down the queue as I finish my drink. What's the book about? Why do you ask so many questions, Tom? Delia grumbles, then says, the book's all about being positive. And stop slurping your drink. That's not very positive, I whisper. We shuffle forward a little bit more. I begin to realise that I might need the toilet. Just thinking about it makes it worse. I know Delia will be annoyed. Stop jiggling around, she tells me. I can't help it. I need the toilet. You're kidding. Delia is almost shouting. A nice person in front of us points out that the toilets are closed. You'll have to go to the ground floor. I'll keep your place, which is kind of them. Delia says, thank you, and grumpily takes me back down. Sorry, it's the slushy, I explain, which doesn't help. I finish my drink and hand the popcorn bag and empty cup to Delia. Just hurry up, Tom, she says, getting annoyed. Don't eat any of my popcorn, will you? I tell her in case she gets any ideas. It's a big relief when I come out of the toilet. Delia hands me back my stuff and I check my popcorn level. I haven't touched it. Can we go? She snaps at me. Okay, let's take the lift, I suggest, trying to be helpful. But Delia doesn't seem that keen. That's a glass lift, Tom. I hate heights. We start to move and Delia clutches the handrail very tightly. Look how high up we are, I point out. Delia keeps quiet. I walk round to see the view. Don't move, Tom. I don't like it, Delia tells me. Nearly at the top, I let her know cheerily, when the lift suddenly stops. What have you done? Delia shouts. Nothing. I haven't touched a thing. I press the fourth floor button a few more times. Why aren't we moving? She asks. I think we're stuck, I say helpfully. This can't be happening. Delia sounds cross. I try the emergency button and we hear a voice that asks us what's happened. The lift's stuck, I say. We'll have an engineer to you as quickly as we can. They tell us calmly. How quickly? Delia wants to know. Very soon. You'll be out in no time at all. The voice cracks. I'm here with my brother, who's only little. Delia adds for some reason. Hey, I'm not that little, and you're the one who doesn't like heights, I remind her. The voice disappears and Delia and I glare at each other for a while. She's cross that we got in the lift. I'm fed up too. I could be at home watching TV. The only good news is that I have an emergency bag with me, which is going to come in handy. I can hear Delia talking to herself quietly, like I'm not even there. Why did I listen to Tom? She's saying. It's not my fault. You won't normally listen to me, I tell her and take a big handful of popcorn. Aren't you going to give me any popcorn then? She asks. I wasn't planning on it. There's not much left. I'll remember that, Delia says in a sort of threatening kind of way. So reluctantly, I pass it over and instantly regret it. Thanks, Tom. You took loads. I don't give her any more. Half an hour later, all my popcorn's gone and we're still stuck. We can hear the engineer outside trying to fix the lift. They shout down, Are you two okay? We won't be long. Oh yes, we're having the best time, Delia calls back. I'm not sure she means it. What have you got in there? She asks me. Useful things like this. I put out a small cushion that I took from our sofa. I thought this might come in handy, and I was right, I say and sit down on it. Comfy. A cushion, she repeats, and my lucky monster pebble. See, Delia sighs. It's not that lucky, is it? I'm never going to get my book signed now. She looks really fed up. I'm just glad I went to the toilet, I add, then try to cheer Delia up by saying, The book queue was massive, Delia. You might still get there in time. I doubt it. I point at her. Positive thinking. That's what your book says. Have you got anything else in your bag to eat? Delia asks me. I have another rummage and bring out a feast. An open packet of cheese crackers and half a caramel wafer. It was all I could grab before we left, I explain. I wasn't planning on sharing it, but I will. I am being nice. Go on then, Delia tells me as I divide the snacks up almost equally. They are mine after all. Thanks, Tom. This could be a Granny Mavis snack. It's better than vegetable cake or carrots and custard, I tell her. Once Granny gave me pasta with banana and spinach sauce. I was shocked by that. I take out my sticky notes, pens and notepad from my bag and put them on the floor. Do you want to play a game while we're waiting? I asked Delia. No, Tom, I don't want to play a game. I want to get out of this lift. She sounds snappy. 1 hour later. Yes. Am I an animal? Yes. Am I furry? Yes. Am I a dog? No, my turn. Am I an animal? Yes. Am I furry? Yes. Do I have a tail? Yes. Do I smell? Yes. Am I a skunk? Did you cheat? A little bit. I could see my reflection in the glass, but I don't tell Delia that. No, I'm not playing another game, Tom, she tells me. I'm too fed up. The engineer shouts down to us once more. Nearly there. Not long now. Please hurry up, Delia shouts back. More people are staring up at us. We've been stuck in here for ages. I have an idea and do some doodling on my notepad. What are you doing now? Delia wants to know. Something you'll be pleased about, I tell her. I doubt that. She says, I write out a message and hold it so the crowd can see. I can tell people are reading it. People like my sign. Delia, it's going to be okay, I say. That's great, Tom, Delia adds wearily. She's not interested at all. 10 minutes later, the lift shudders up and we start to slowly move up. It's a big relief. The manager and engineer are happy to see us, but not as happy as we are. The bad news is the author has already finished the signing and the books have all gone. Surprisingly, Delia doesn't seem too bothered. I'm desperate for the toilet, she says. The nearest one's on the ground floor. You could take the lift, the manager reminds us. Are you kidding? Delia says. And we take the escalator back down. While Delia's gone, the manager hands me a bag. I saw your sign and meant to give you this. It's the least we could do to apologise for the lift breaking down. Now, is there anything else I can get you? I take a look in the bag and see what it is. Yes, thank you. There is something I like, I say quickly before Delia comes back. More popcorn. And this time I make sure Delia gets her own. We've been gone for nearly 3 hours, but we still get back home before Mum and Dad. It's obvious from all the stuff they've bought, they went to a lot more than one shop. I'm actually glad I went with Delia. Mum says we can go to the shopping centre now and Delia snaps. There's no need. We missed everything. All the books will have gone. She doesn't mention the lift. This seemed like a very good time to step in and hand over the bag that the manager gave us. But first, I try and get Delia to say, repeat after me. Tom is the best brother ever. I will be nice to him all the time. Delia looks confused. Why would I say that? Then she sees what's in the bag. Only the book she wanted to buy. It's a strange experience watching Delia be pleased about something, almost a smile. My sister Delia wants a book signed, but we're stuck in the lift. And thanks to my sign, the manager got the author to sign it too. Delia is forced to agree that I am the best brother ever. Mum wants to know how we got the book. Then she asks if I've done my homework, which is awkward. It's a long story, Delia says, and doesn't mention the popcorn, blue slushy, or getting stuck in the lift at all. Best not to. I've put Delia in such a good mood she even offers to help me with my homework, which I say yes to, obviously. I try and make the most of the situation while she's so happy and ask if I can borrow a few of her Rock Weekly magazines. And I wouldn't mind a wafer as well, I ask hopefully. Don't push it, Tom, Delia says. The third book in the series. Stay positive. Number 2. You can do it. Number 3. I can do it. Number 4. We can do it. To Delia. Sorry you got stuck in the lift. Stay positive. You can do it. Love, Posy Tive. It was worth a go. It's not often I'm in Delia's good books. 4. Tremendous Bugs. That's it. I'm a tremendous bug. So am I. And me. I am too. I can bet you can't do this. Huh? Puff. Cooey. I'm here. 4 tremendous tails. But what animals? 4 tremendous tails. But what animals do they belong to? Wait a sec, I'm just checking if I've got that right. Yeah, 4 tremendous tails. But what animals do they belong to? Practicing for my sponsored silence. It's not easy, thanks to the fly. Go away! Shoo! Shoo! Oakfield Parade. 5 stripy straws. Our headmaster, Mr. Keene, made an announcement in assembly. He said, "This year, for the first time ever, we'll be taking part in the Oakfield Town Children's Parade." Then he did an air punch, which was unexpected. "Let's show everyone how amazing our school is," he told us, and waited for a big cheer. No one was sure what to do, apart from Brad Galloway, who shouted, "Yeah!" and someone else coughed really loudly. "Emails are being sent to your homes which explain all about it," Mr. Keene added. I was pretty excited about the parade, but when Mum and Dad got the email, they didn't seem excited at all. "Oh no, more costumes," Mum sighed. "Aren't we busy that weekend? I'm sure we're doing something," Dad asked. Even Delia joined in with the grumbling about it. "Just what Oakfield needs, a parade closing the whole town down." "Mr. Fullerman says we'll have a school float, and there's recycled instruments samba band too," I told them, thinking it would make the parade sound even better. "Another good reason to miss it," Delia told me, before disappearing into her room. "Well, I'm still going," I said to Mum and Dad. Back in class, Mr. Fullerman began to tell us more about the parade. "You'll be asked to wear either red, yellow or green clothing to fit in with our theme this year, which is traffic lights," I whisper to Amy. I whisper, and Amy laughs. "The natural world," Mr. Fullerman finishes saying, and gives me a look. "I need one person to wear a main costume and sit on the float, while the rest of you will walk in the parade." I like the idea of sitting on the main float. I want to be that person. Then Brad Galloway shouts, "Sir, I can sit on the float," and the whole class joins in. "Me, sir. Can I sit on the float, sir?" "Then I'll do it, sir." "Me, sir." "Calm down, Class 5F. I'll be choosing that person in a fair way," he tells us. Mr. Fullerman points to the merit board. "The top 5 children on the merit board will have the chance to be on the float." We all look at the board. Amy's name is there, as well as Indrani, Trevor, Marcus, and me. Before I get too excited, Amy spots a problem. "Mr. Fullerman, we've all got the same amount of merits." "You're right, Amy. I'm going to have to decide based on who impresses me with their good behaviour," Mr. Fullerman tells us. "This children's parade is suddenly sounding like a mission to me." Straight away, Marcus tries to be helpful and offers to hand out today's worksheets. "Thank you, Marcus. And I'll push the chairs in at break time," Indrani tells Mr. Fullerman. "I need to catch up and do something. Even Amy is sorting out pencils." I'm so ready to help out and impress when Mr. Fullerman asks us a question. I listen really carefully. "Can I have a volunteer to take this envelope down to the school office, please?" Yes, this is my chance. I leap up excitedly and accidentally wave my hand in Trevor Peters' face. He drops all the pencils on the floor. "Oh, sorry, Trevor," I apologise and bend down to pick them up. This gives Marcus the opportunity to swoop in and tell Mr. Fullerman that he can take the envelope. "I'll do it, sir." "Don't be long, Marcus." "Thank you," Mr. Fullerman tells him. "Do I get another merit for helping, sir?" Marcus asks. This is getting annoying. "Actually, Marcus, I've decided that we'll be drawing straws to see who goes on the main float." Mr. Fullerman says, but Marcus has gone already. We'll wait till he comes back, he adds. So it's Trevor, Amy, me, and Indrani who draw straws. And Marcus. Mr. Fullerman is holding the 5 straws in his hand. You don't see the end of any of them. We don't know which straw is the short one. Whoever picks it will get to go on the float and wear the main costume. The atmosphere in the classroom tenses. Marcus makes it worse by running in and shouting, "I'm here," as if we'd missed him. Don't forget, children, you'll still be playing a very important part in the parade if you don't pick the short straw, Mr. Fullerman reminds us. We all reach for a straw, and Trevor takes the first one out. I can tell from his face it's a long straw. It's Amy next, then Indrani, then me, and we all've got long straws. Marcus has got the short straw. Oh yes, he's going to be the one on the float wearing the main costume. For the rest of the day, Marcus doesn't stop going on about it. Hands up if you're sitting on the main float in the Oakfield School Parade. Oh, just me then. I'll be glad when the day of the parade actually arrives. I've always loved short straws. Bad luck, Tom. And when it finally does, I get to wear a red t-shirt with spots like Derek. Everyone else is dressed as insects in green or yellow. Everyone apart from Marcus. Thanks to the short straw, he's sitting right on top of the main float. Dressed as an apple. I'm glad I didn't draw the short straw after all. Marcus did enjoy himself eventually. 6. Silly games. Sometimes teachers swap classes for different subjects. Today is one of those days. Mr. Fullerman has gone to class 5N, lucky them, and we've got Mrs. Knapp for a music lesson. Let me tell you a few things about Mrs. Knapp. She is very enthusiastic all of the time. She can sing really loudly. She wears a lot of chunky jewellery that makes clunk noises when she moves around. Mrs. Knapp brings in a big box of what looks like kitchen equipment, which is unexpected. She holds up 2 wooden spoons and asks, "Can anyone guess what we'll be doing with these today?" "Cooking!" Brad Galloway calls out from the back of the class. There's a rumble of excitement at the thought of doing something different. "Can we make cakes?" Amber Tully wants to know. "Not today. Anyone else want to have a guess?" Mrs. Knapp and picks up a cheese grater. Next, Norman starts waving frantically. "It's a cheese grater!" he shouts. "Yes, Norman, but what are we doing with it?" Mrs. Knapp asks. Grating cheese," Norman replies. "I really like cheese, Mrs. Knapp," he adds. "I like cheese too, Mrs. Knapp," Pansy tells her. "I prefer cheese triangles," Solid adds. There's a big discussion about cheese around the class, which wasn't the music lesson Mrs. Knapp was hoping for. "This is ridiculous," Marcus rumbles next to me. He's been saying ridiculous a lot lately, like it's his new favourite word. Amy puts up her hand and asks Mrs. Knapp, "Are we going to use the cheese graters like an instrument?" "Well done, Amy. That's exactly what we're going to do." Before we begin, let's do some deep breathing exercises. Everyone stand up and try not to scrape, 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 scrape. She adds, just a little too late. "Now breathe in through your mouth and out through your nose," she tells us. This confuses me. I'm not the only one either. There's a lot of breathing noises around the class. Marcus sounds like a deflating balloon. He's breathing so heavily. "Hey Marcus, you're making my hair puff up," I tell him. He ignores me. You should all be feeling nice and relaxed now. Not really. Then Mrs. Knapp begins to sway, and her earrings started to move from side to side. Her necklace starts to clonk as she begins to sing loudly as well. Oakfield School, Oakfield School, we love being at Oakfield School. Teachers and pupils at Oakfield School are the best. The last note she sings so high, it makes the windows rattle and my ears hurt. There are dogs around town that can hear Mrs. Knapp singing. Did you enjoy that song? Mrs. Knapp asks us. We're still slightly in shock. Oh, and thank you to everyone that's listened so far. Snazzy pasties. Next, she hands around the contents of the box. I get a wooden spoon and saucepan. Amy has the cheese grater and spoon, and Marcus gets 2 whisks. We're using kitchen utensils and percussion instruments like this. Mrs. Knapp demonstrates by using a spoon on the grater. If I'm honest, the noise is a bit annoying, but she is so enthusiastic and taps away while singing the tune again. This is ridiculous. A whisk, Marcus grumbles, then bashes on the table. He's not the only one making a noise. There's pans, more spoons, other kitchen items. Everyone starts to play with them straight away. I say playing, but it's more like a noise. Utensils down, class 5F. Solid. Chopsticks on the table. Whisks, spoons and saucepans. Stop playing with them, please. Mrs. Knapp calls out. She picks up some wooden spoons and points at Norman. Frying pan off your head, Norman. When we're all quiet, which takes a while, Mrs. Knapp shows us how to tap out different rhythms that she wants us to copy, using her wooden spoons to demonstrate. Eventually, we're all tapping out sounds that don't seem quite so bad. Our lesson is attracting a lot of attention from anyone who's passing our door. People keep peering in. It's putting some kids off playing in time, so Mrs. Knapp tells us to keep going, concentrate, don't let anyone put you off. Just as the door opens and in walks Mr. Keene. Is everything okay, Mrs. Knapp? He asks. Yes, Mr. Keene, we're having a wonderful time making music with kitchen equipment, Mrs. Knapp explains. Of course you are. Keep up the good work, Mr. Keene tells us. He keeps blinking every time Mark Clump hits his saucepan lid. We carry on tapping after he leaves. It takes a while for anyone to notice the bell has gone for break time. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun, Mrs. Knapp tells us. Leave your instruments on the table, and this time try not to scrape your chairs. Scrape, scrape, scrape. At break time, I'm trying to explain to Derek what all those noises coming from our class was. You were playing with wooden spoons? Derek asks, sounding surprised. Yes, and Amy had a saucepan, I tell him. I was using whisks. It was a bit ridiculous if you ask me, Marcus chips in, using his favourite word again. Hey, I've got a silly game we can play if you want to, Amy suggests. What is it? I'm good at games, Marcus says confidently, as always. Here's Amy's silly game. I'll give you some silly words to say. Yours is false teeth, okay? I'll say something and you say false teeth at the end. False teeth. False teeth. This is easy, but you mustn't laugh. Okay. Ready? What do you want for your birthday, Tom? False teeth. It's my dream gift. I'm not laughing. Derek is, though. Now Solid has a go at making me laugh. Tom's a really good singer because he's got false teeth. Tom plays guitar with his false teeth. Tom got ready for school. He combed his hair with his false teeth. Silly game too. I laughed, by the way, in the first one. Who's next? Derek, I'm ready. Your word is big pants. Seriously? Derek eats his crisps in his big pants. You got a star pupil badge for your big pants. Derek, tell me why you're smiling. Big pants. What's your favourite band? Big pants. What do you look for in a band? Big pants. Derek's out. Silly game 3. Okay, Marcus. Me next. I won't laugh. Your words are fluffy bundle. Marcus, what's your real name? Fluffy bundle. Marcus doesn't last long. Back in class. Mrs. Knapp greets us all by singing our names really loudly as we walk in. Hello, Tom Gates. Hi, Marcus and Amy. Sit down, Mark Clump. Hello, Florence. This is not something Mr. Fullerman has ever done. Marcus keeps repeating fluffy bundle to himself and trying not to laugh, which isn't working. It's not that funny, Marcus, I say as he keeps laughing. It looks like all the kitchen utensils are back in their box, so we're obviously doing something different. Mrs. Knapp is still singing. Everyone sit down, get ready. I want you to help me write a song. Another high note takes us by surprise again. Think of an idea or subject. I'll write it down and then turn your ideas into a song. Now, who's going to start? Mrs. Knapp is looking around our class and spots Marcus mumbling. Marcus, you look like you've got something to say, she asks. Marcus panics and blurts out, fluffy bundle? Because that's what was on his mind. I take it all back. Fluffy bundle is funny after all. Mrs. Knapp writes fluffy bundle on the board, which sparks off lots of other odd suggestions from the rest of the class. Pansy says, cute dog. Spelling test, Indrani adds. Home, Solid says. Ants, Mark Clumps calls out. This is going to be a tricky song to write, Mrs. Knapp tells us. Mrs. Knapp spends some time looking at the words. Every time she turns her head, her earrings swing around. Here we go, a short song based on your words, Mrs. Knapp says, then begins to sing. There's a little cute dog. It's a real fluffy bundle. On the way home, it follows me closely. I think it's the best. The little dog is better than a spelling test. We give Mrs. Knapp a round of applause. Then Mark Clump puts up his hand. Miss Knapp, you missed out the ants. You're right. Well, why don't you put ants in your own songs? That's what I love all of you to do now. Write your own songs. So that's what I did. My song idea comes to me surprisingly fast. The ants. They wore tiny pants. Then they found when they ran around, their pants weren't tiny enough. I think it's a classic. Silly game 4. Can you find a pair of ants in tiny pants? I'll start you off. Silly bug game 5. Spot the difference. Silly bug game 6. How many bugs can you count? 7. Celebrity sightings. There's a rumour going around school that the famous actor Sacha Tosay and Rod Stable have been seen in Oakfield's town. They star in a really popular spy films, The Spy at Night, Don't Spy on Me, The Spy Who Didn't Like Me. My favourite is called Why Spy. The spy books are really good too. Derek and I are waiting to go into school when Marcus comes running over like he's got something really important to say. Hey, hey, hey! Guess what happened to me? He shouts, then doesn't wait for us to answer. I saw Sacha Tosay and Rod Table. Do you mean Rod Stable? I correct him, but he ignores me. They were in the town library. I was taking some books back and I saw them, and they smiled at me, he tells us, and is also almost jumping up and down. Most of our friends hear Marcus and want to know what's going on. Did you say Sacha Tosay was in the library? Are you sure? Why would they be in there? Amy wonders. It's a very good question. I didn't ask them. I was too busy being excited and smiling, Marcus says. Maybe they were getting books out of the library or taking some back, Solid whispers. Seriously? They're film stars. Why would they be in the library? Amy laughs. Maybe they could be making a film, Florence wonders. Did you see any cameras? I ask Marcus. No, but I wasn't looking for cameras. Are you sure it was them? It seems a bit odd that they were in the library, Derek adds. Marcus is getting a bit cross with us all, asking questions. Yes, I did see Sacha Tosay and Rod Stable yesterday. I'm going back to the library after school today to see if they are making a film, a new spy film starring Sacha Tosay and Rod Stable. Then a little kid walking past hears our conversation and joins in. Hey, I know who you're talking about. See, I told you all. I'm not making it up. Did you see them? Marcus wants to know. Yes, on the poster at the bus stop. There's there's one for their new film. I can't wait, the little kid tells us. This is not what Marcus wants to hear. The bell goes for the start of school and he stomps off muttering to himself. In class, Mr. Fullerman hands out today's worksheets, which is all about writing stories in a diary style. Good for me. Marcus already has his hands up is desperate to let Mr. Fullerman and the rest of the class hear his news. Okay, Marcus, I can tell you're keen to share something with us. Yes, sir. I saw the real Sasha Tosei and Rod Stable at the town library yesterday after school. Some kids say, "Whoa!" They are impressed. Others laugh. Mr. Fullerman smiles. I see. How unusual to see famous people in Oakfield Town and in the library too. He sounds like he's not sure it happened. Then I put up my hand. Mr. Fullerman, you're forgetting that Teacup Tony and the Saucers live in Oakfield Town and the leafy green old folks' home. Well, Teacup Tony does, and he was famous, I remind him. Not as famous as Sasha Tosei and Rod Stable, Marcus chips in, slightly annoyed. Pansy puts up her hand. Sir, there's someone on my street who's famous for spending the longest time in a bathtub of baked beans. Well, I take it back, Mr. Fullerman laughs. Perhaps that's what you could write about in your diary story today, Pansy, he suggests. Marcus has already started his work. It's like no one believes I saw them, he says and glares at us in our direction. We do, Marcus. It's just funny that they were in the library, says Amy, and I agree. It's a bit like if they turned up in the local shop or playground. That would be unexpected, wouldn't it, Marcus, I say to him. Whatever. I'm going to write it all up in my diary story, Marcus mutters and gets busy. Amy starts hers, and I'm left wondering what I can write about now. Then it comes to me in a flash. I'll write about the time Delia and I got stuck in the lift, and how she wanted to meet a famous author but couldn't. Then how I saved the day with my spectacular sign and all the very important things that I kept in my bag. I will get a lot of merits for this, I'm sure. And it's all true, of course. With my diary work all done, the bell goes for the end of the school day. Marcus leaves in a big hurry. I'm going back to the library, he tells us. If you see any other mega film stars, Marcus, let us know, Amy calls after us. I will. I'm not making it up, he shouts back. Derek and I had planned to head to the park and the shop on the way home, but now we're both curious to see if Marcus was making it all up. We might as well go. We could always get out a book, Derek suggests. Good point. Or we might be too busy hanging out with all the famous people. And Marcus, I joke. True, Derek laughs. On the way, we walk past the poster at the bus stop for the new spy film and stop for a closer look. Nice poster. I've seen a few of these around town, Derek tells me. Maybe that's how the rumour started in the first place, I wonder. The little kid saw the poster, Derek remembers. Marcus wasn't happy, I remind him, then take out my pocket money and check how much I have to spend. Not much, but it's better than nothing. After a good think, we settle on 2 fruit chew lollies, then head off to the park. How long can you make your lolly last for, Derek wants to know. Not long. I've already taken a bite from the top and the bottom, I say. Let's see if we can make them last all the way to the park, says Derek. Oh, and don't walk on any cracks in the pavement either. This takes all our concentration. We do it, though, and finish our lollies at the exact same time. It's a lot easier to play in the park when you're not holding a lolly. What do you think Marcus is doing now? Derek asks me on the swing. Annoying someone or looking for famous people? I laugh. Or both, Derek adds. After the park, we head to the library, which is pretty quiet, as normal. The librarians tell us they're closing early today, so we don't have much time, but that's okay. No sign of Marcus, Derek says, or anyone else, I tell him. I find a spy book I wanted to get out, and Derek grabs a book on snakes. We have a quick read before the library closes. I'm going to show this book to Mark Clump. He has a pet snake, Derek reminds me. When we get home, I draw a picture of a snake and show it to Derek from my window. Derek does a picture of Mr. Fullerman, which makes me laugh. We've arranged to go and see the spy film at the weekend, and I can't wait. At least then I'll be able to tell Marcus we have seen Sasha, Tosa and Rod Stable for real then. It might stop him from going on about them. At school the next day, Marcus can't wait to show me and Amy this photo. I told you they were still filming at the library, see? I don't know how you missed them, he tells us smugly. I don't know either. To be fair to Marcus, it's a really good picture, and he does look very happy. I would be too. Derek and I still can't work out why we didn't see them. It's a total mystery. Marcus will remind us about this forever. I'd probably have done the same thing, to be fair. 8 extra merits, hopefully. Homework meter. When Mr. Fullerman hands out homework, he tries to make it sound really exciting, as if it's the one thing we're all really thrilled to do. He says things like, "Have I got a big treat for you all? You're going to love this. I bet you couldn't wait to see what I've got for you today." Here's my thrilled face. This is what Mr. Fullerman gave me for my homework this week. Cheery stars don't fool me. Let's see. Homework for Class 5F. Here's some exciting homework that I know you'll enjoy. Please use your imagination and let it run wild. This is your chance to write a story about anything you want. I'm looking forward to reading your stories. 1 A4 page at least, please. Thank you, Mr. Fullerman. Mr. Fullerman added the bit about how long it's supposed to be to stop kids doing things like this. Once upon a time, there was a giant who got really big, then died. The end. I've tried that before too. I have to get a few more merits for my work, because then I get a red badge. Mr. Fullerman has 3 colours of badge that really he gives out if you've done something really well. Red badge if you've got a lot of merits or you've been amazing. Blue badge for anything spectacular in sports or active stuff, dancing, music, that kind of thing. Green badge for excellent environmental work, recycling projects, or things like growing a huge sunflower. Not as easy as it sounds. I'm so close to getting a red badge that it's such an important story. The trouble is, I've been in my room, staring at a blank page for ages. The blank page seems to be staring back at me. Still staring. I do a few doodles while I'm trying to think of a story to write, and then I get an idea. Homework. Mr. Fullerman and anyone else who's reading my story, if these characters remind you of someone in real life, it's just a weird coincidence. The Sister Who Lost Her Smile by Tom Gates. There once was a really talented boy called Tim who lived with his mum and dad and his extremely grumpy sister, Telia. In the land of Field Oak, their house was nice and large and quite fancy. Tim had everything he wanted, apart from a dog. Telia, on the other hand, never seemed that cheerful. Mum and Dad said it was because she was a teenager, but I'm not so sure. One day, Telia was complaining about having to look after her wonderful brother Tim, who was a joy to be around. Everyone said so. "Do I have to? I don't want to waste a minute of my precious time," she grumbled. Mum and Dad shook their heads. How had they raised such a grumpy daughter, especially when their son was such a delight? Then, while Telia was still frowning and furious, a big gust of wind swept in, then changed direction, and Telia's face froze like this. She got stuck with a grumpy mush face. At first, no one noticed, as that was her normal expression, but after a few days, even Telia realised something was up, or down, in the case of her mouth. "This programme's hilarious, isn't it, Telia?" Tim asked her while they were watching TV. Telia just stared blankly. I think my smile's gone. How can I get it back? You might have to wait for the wind to change, and that could take a while, Tim told her, because he was smart and knew a lot of things. Mum and Dad were worried that Telia would be stuck like that forever. Oh no, no smile. What happens if the wind doesn't change? Dad said. We might never see Telia's happy, smiling face again, Mum said dramatically. I don't think I've ever seen it, Tim pointed out. What are we going to do? Mum wondered. We could offer a prize for anyone who can make Telia smile again, said Dad. Good idea, but it will have to be something special. Otherwise, why bother? Tim asked. Excuse me, I am here, you know, snapped Telia. Whoops. Mum and Dad set off to tell the whole of Field Oak town about Telia's missing smile. They put up posters and offered cash and some cake if anyone could help her get her smile back. This could be an impossible task, but luckily the people of Field Oak Town were keen to help and get the cash and cake. So it wasn't long before a queue began to appear outside of the house. This looks promising, Mum told Telia. We should let them come in and see who will bring back your smile, she added hopefully. Whatever, Telia grumbled. Tim pulled up a chair to watch as he was sure this was going to take a while. Telia just looked miserable. One by one, Dad let them see Telia. Some people really made an effort. There were clowns, jugglers, dogs in costumes, comedians telling jokes. What sits at the bottom of the sea and quivers? A nervous wreck. People who gurned and pulled funny faces, people wearing funny outfits, people doing silly dances, but nothing worked. Telia's mouth didn't move at all, not even one little bit. Who else is left? Mum asked. That's it, I'm afraid. The funniest people in the whole of Field Oak have failed to get Telia's smile back, Dad said, sadly. The problem isn't me, it's them, Telia said miserably. I'm going to be stuck like this forever. The thought of Telia being even more grumpy wasn't great for anyone. Tim tried to look on the bright side, though. Oh, well, at least we got to keep the money and, more importantly, the cake. Tim was so keen to have a slice of cake, he ran at speed and didn't see the small step until it was too late. Tim tripped and fell through the air, landing face first into the cake. At the exact moment, the wind changed, which might have been a coincidence. Telia's face began to quiver. Her mouth moved from a big frown to a slight wobble. The sight of Tim's face in the cake made her smile. Then she began to laugh a lot. Ha 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 ha. Telia hadn't laughed like this in years. Mum and Dad were delighted. Oh, what a wonderful sight to see our daughter smiling and being happy again, Mum said. And it's all down to our brilliant son Tim, Dad added. Even Telia had forgotten how much she enjoyed laughing at the misfortune of others. Tim, in this case. Dad helped her clean Tim up, and then they all managed to have some cake, even if it was a little bit squashed. I'm glad Telia found my trip funny, and that's why she got her smile back, Tim said, as he was the best brother ever, who always put other people first. Because he was so good, Tim was allowed to use the money and buy the dog he'd always wanted. Telia wasn't happy about it at all, but then she was always grumpy about everything, so no change there. Then, once the dog arrived, she didn't smile again for a while. It had nothing to do with the wind changing. Tim wasn't bothered at all because he had a dog, and everyone lived happily ever after. The end. Well, almost. Oi! Note for Mr. Fullerman. I hope you're super impressed that I have written such a long story, which I think deserves a lot of merits. 9. Nasty Nibbles. As soon as I walk through the door, I shout, "Hello!" I'm home, in a funny voice. No one answers. This is great news. That means Delia's still out, Mum's not back from work, and Dad must be in his shed working. I take a peek out of the kitchen window, and I can see he's there talking on the phone. Excellent. This gives me plenty of time to myself, to some of that caramel ice cream that I know is in the freezer. Just a few scoops off the top, no one will notice. Dad bought it when he stopped in the garage the other day. I looked after it and wanted to eat some in the car. I'd found a spoon in my bag, so I was all set. No, Tom, you can't eat the ice cream straight from the tub in the car, Dad told me. I actually could, but Dad made me wait until we got home. He took the ice cream from my warm hands and put it in the freezer. It's starting to melt, Tom. We'll have it later, he said. I couldn't stop thinking about the caramel ice cream. It felt like it was going to be a long time before I could have some. It was only when Derek and Norman came round for band practice that I forgot about it. For a while, we practiced a few songs, but as soon as they left, the ice cream popped back into my head. The problem with this kind of ice cream is that you can't just take a sneaky scoop from the freezer. You have to leave it to go soft first. I make sure no one's around, then I take out the caramel ice cream and put it by the window, where there's a nice bit of sunshine. That will soften it up quickly. It's a great plan. I whisper, melt, 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 to hurry it up. Staring at the ice cream doesn't speed it up. It makes sense to leave it just a few minutes while I hop onto the sofa and watch TV. Being on my own means I can spread myself out and hold on to the remote control. It's brilliant. I catch up on a few episodes of the Crazy Fruit Bunch. They're so funny. It's only after the third one comes on that I remember, oh no, the ice cream, which has only gone and fully melted everywhere. The lid of the carton has fallen off and all the caramel ice cream has poured out onto the kitchen floor. It's a big, sticky mess. Looking inside the carton, I managed to spoon out the last tiny bit from the right at the bottom. It's delicious. Then I do my best to wipe up the melted ice cream with a ton of kitchen paper. It's still a bit sticky. As I'm wondering what to do with the now empty ice cream carton, I hear the front door slam and Mum say, I'm home. Mum will think I ate it all. I'm not supposed to help myself either. I look around for somewhere to hide it. I can't put it back in the freezer and the bin's too full. Then I panic and hurl the carton into the garden where it lands in a flower bed. Dad thinks I'm waving at him and he waves back. I smile and try to look relaxed, just as Mum walks in. There you are, Tom. It's such a nice day. I thought we should eat dinner in the garden tonight. Great idea, Mum, I smile. I'm just about to answer when Delia walks over and heads straight towards the freezer. Delia, what are you doing? I shout, because I don't want her to see the empty space where the ice cream was. Why do you want to know? She asks, sounding already annoyed. Then Dad comes in and says, Hi, you two. Hi, you two. Thanks for waving at me, Tom. That was nice. I keep quiet. We're thinking of having dinner outside tonight, Frank, Mum tells him. Great. Hey, Tom, we can have some of that caramel ice cream for afters, Dad reminds me. This is getting awkward. Not forgetting that Delia is still looming towards the freezer, I try and stand up in front of her and casually stop to yawn. Tom, do you mind? I need to look at the calendar, Delia says crossly. Oh, well, that's okay then. She's not looking in the freezer. I let Delia pass and even smile at her. Why is it all sticky around here? Pass me the kitchen roll, Tom, Mum asks. It's all gone, I say, and head quickly out to the garden to escape and make sure the ice cream carton is safely hidden. Dad gives me a job before I go. Take these out to the table, Tom. And another job, then one more. Eating outside is a lot of bother, if you ask me. I don't even have enough time to properly check the ice cream carton is still hidden before Mum and Dad come and join me. I've put the kitchen pie in the oven, so it just needs to heat up, Mum says, and I immediately leap for joy. Yes, chicken pie is my favourite, I shout. That and caramel ice cream. What a treat, Dad adds, and I stop jumping. Delia arrives once everything's done and takes the seat I wanted. Let's all sit down. The pie won't be long, Mum suggests. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see a little bit of the carton and loads of bugs that have started to fly around it. I really hope no one notices. There's a lot of bugs and flies flying around over there, Delia says. Oh yes, so there is. I wonder, what's attracting them? Dad wonders. I hope it's not the nest of some kind, Mum adds. This isn't going well. I go and investigate before anyone else does, and make sure I hide the empty carton a little better. Be careful, Tom. You don't want to get bitten or make the bugs angry, Mum tells me. We wouldn't want that, Delia says, not sounding like she means it at all. Try not to let anyone see. I go over to the flower bed and give the carton a really big kick to push it further away. But it gets stuck on the end of my shoe and the bugs go wild. What are you doing, Tom? Dad calls out. Nothing, I say and shake my shoe. Somehow I manage to flick the carton right up into the air, and it only goes and lands on my head. Straight away, the bugs start biting me. Stop messing around, Tom. Come and sit down, will you? Mum tells me. I don't want those flies near me, Tom. Stay there, Delia says, not helping at all. I close my eyes to stop the bugs bothering my face. Then in one slick move, I swipe the carton off my head, spin around and try to chuck it back into the flower bed. Or not. Tom! Delia shouts before ducking out of the way. Dad manages to catch the carton that's flying towards him. What's an empty ice cream carton doing in the garden? Mum wants to know. Delia and Dad are looking at me. I can explain. It's not what you think, I manage to say before the bugs go crazy and we all have to go inside. The good news is Mum and Dad aren't cross as I thought they'd be after I reenact the whole melted ice cream story. I just wanted a quick taste to make sure it was nice, I say. That was very good of you, Tom, Mum laughs. Dad thinks we should get some more for later, which I agree with. I promise not to help myself again. The bad news. We're all so busy talking about ice cream that the chicken pie burns. Pasta okay for everyone? Mum asks. It's not that it's a bad swap. I just miss chicken pie. There's more bad news for me, though, as it looks like I'm the only one in the family who the bugs found tasty. Dad dabs on some special cream which helps. It's still annoying, though, but not as annoying as Marcus when he keeps counting all my bites at school the next day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And oh, there's another one. 8. One more. 9. No need, Marcus. 10. Tremendous minutes. Class 5F, sponsored silence. Quiet, please. Mr. Fullerman made us all run around the school grounds to get rid of extra energy before we start our sponsored silence. Now my face is all red. Okay, Class 5F, everyone ready? Yes, sir. So no talking. Write down anything that you need to say. Let's see how long we can last for. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Silence. As soon as Mr. Fullerman says we can't talk, the bites on my face start to itch. It's hard not to scratch them. Marcus holds up a sign that doesn't help. The only way I'm going to get through the sponsor's silence and not make a noise is by trying to think of something else, not itching, ignoring Marcus, and doing lots of really good doodles. I start drawing, and it's a very good distraction. 10 pets I would like. a medium dog, a long dog, a friendly bear, a nice bunny, a big dog, a small dog, a tiny dog, hamsters that sleep at night, a happy spider, cake-eating snake. 10 tremendous treats: banana to doodle on, milkshakes, fruity chews, peas, cheesy puffs, a tower of chocolate raisins topped with a wafer, ice cream, popcorn, a choc bar of any kind. Half an hour into our sponsored silence, it looks like you, Marcus. Your doodles are ridiculous. We managed to keep quiet for a little bit longer until Mr. Fullerman finally says, "Well done, Class 5F. The sponsored silence is over." And that's the end of the audiobook. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I'll be uploading more. I've just had a little bit of a break. See ya. Bye.